Happy Monday. Today is a makeup stream because due in no small part to my family matters and things related to that, as well as certain issues I've had with some accidental workplace issues. Not issues, but I snagged myself on some sharp corners and caused myself some injury. I'm literally putting a fresh set of band-aids on right now. I had to delay some of my streams, so today is going to be a makeup stream. Let me share this real quick. Oh, make sure this is streaming. There we go. Got it. Okay. Just had to make sure that this was connected to YouTube. And there we go. Okay. There I am. Cool. There we go. I got it. But yeah. More band-aids. So many band-aids. Oh. Okay. Okay. I did it. I did the things. One sec. Ooh. No, it's sticking to me. Okay. Did it. Hi. Oh, that was cold. I have smoothie. Smoothie just dripped on me. But, all right. So I am here, and today we're going to be talking about fashion, and which is obviously, I think, one of my favorite topics. But not just fashion in the general, I guess, idea of how fashion is normally covered. More that we're going to be talking a little bit about how fashion has changed through the ages, and the way that it has changed has been, hey Brant, hello, I'm back, how are you? Hello. It's good to see you. Smoothies. Okay. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about fashion, and we're going to be talking about how fashion has changed through the ages, in no small part because of utilitarian uses that eventually became normalized into trends. And a lot of us, I think, have forgotten where and why those trends developed. So I wanted to take today to have a bit of a conversation about that and some of the surprising inspirations behind very much well-loved designs, especially designs that are associated with class and status that maybe came from things you wouldn't assume. There is also a common denominator when it comes to how a lot of these trends developed and why that isn't necessarily the first thing I would have thought. But as is always the case, whenever there's something small in the world, or that is maybe not small, but whenever there is something that you take for granted in the world, it often has connections to something significantly larger. So, first off, hi, how are you doing, Brant? I hope you're doing well. I'm happy to be able to be streaming again. It's been a minute since I have been able to. There's been a couple of different things going on for me personally. I think I did mention this in my last stream, but my uncle did pass away, and there was a memorial for him that was attended by family members, that some of whom I hadn't seen since I was a baby. That happened last weekend, and kind of with incoming family members and everything, it did mean that a lot of the kind of time during the week that I would be streaming or preparing to stream or editing videos or doing things like that, we needed to be devoted to family time. So things kind of had to take a back seat in this area. So yeah. Actually, Brant, you might know more than you think. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I know that it's kind of universally understood that when stuff like that happens, it's like, yeah, no, you should take a backseat and pause. But as is often the case, when there are things that I would never blink an eye if other people needed, for myself, I'm like, girl, you're slipping. What are you doing? Like, I have a very bad habit of beating myself up a bit if I can't hold to certain scheduled expectations. Even if I am consistently very late to my own scheduled expectations, I still expect myself to make it. So, yeah. When things kind of don't work out the way I expect them to, I get pretty frustrated with myself. So thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it a lot. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I have noticed that when things like this happen, I expect myself to be able to maintain certain standards, and then I surprise myself when, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't or wouldn't be able to, because nobody would or should. But of course, like, God forbid I do that. But yeah, I'm gonna just send a quick reminder to Discord real quick. Okay. Hey, Ellie, how are you? Hello. That's fair. That's fair. Thank you. Also, one thing I was really happy about is that I was able to have a really fantastic watch party of Perfect Blue a few days ago, which was very, very welcome. I think I really appreciated being able to do that and have such a fascinating and fantastic conversation afterwards as well. So yeah, you did your homework. Yes, you did. You did. What did you think? Oh my gosh, Brant, wait, okay, hold up. What did you think of Princess Mononoke? It's okay if if you're, okay. If you didn't like it, that's okay. It's totally okay. But I also want to know what you think. Regardless, in all the ways, cause yeah. What is that smile? But yeah, so I am excited to know. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I don't know why that reminded me of something. That weird little singy thing I just did. But I just was reminded of like how much I heard sing-songiness when like I was younger and as a kid and in family things. It was just such a consistent thread of how communication happened, and I catch myself now a lot more, I think, because I've been around family this past weekend more than I have been in the past, for the most, I think, consistent period, more than I have in years. I'm catching all these little things and I'm like, oh, I never stopped doing that, did I? But yeah. Okay, sorry, that was completely a tangent and unrelated to anything. Well, excuse me while I'm just choking over here. Okay, also, this is one of my pride and joys over here. My Shinji cup. It's so good. I am very obsessed with that cup. But yeah, it was fun. Okay, so one thing that I didn't remember about Princess Mononoke when I first saw it. It was one of the very first movies I ever saw. And I, to this day, that I could consciously remember watching, I should say. I'm sure there were other movies I saw first. I don't know what my very first one was ever. But, like, it was one of the very first movies I ever saw. And I remember not realizing how violent it actually was and how graphic that violence was when I was a kid. But then I rewatched it as an adult multiple times and I was like, oh my God, what? Was it always like this? And yes, it was always like that. Yeah. Ghost in the Shell is a need. Oh my God. Okay, so we gotta watch. Okay. Maybe we can have another watch party where we watch Ghost in the Shell. But we also need to watch Ghost in the Shell 2 because it is a criminally underappreciated film. It is one of my favorite films. So. Sorry. But it's really good. It's really good. Y'all, it's... Sorry. It's such a good film, and I feel like it's just not appreciated as much. And it has so much interesting philosophical connection. It's like, watching that film is actually what began the little research dive I did that led me to the name for my clothing brand that I have yet to finish making things for. But yes, that's what started it. No! Ellie, no. We do not speak of this film. That is not a film in the canon. That doesn't qualify. That doesn't count. No. The animated one. Scarlett Johansson does not get to have mention. Absolutely not. That's a no. Sorry. No. She doesn't get, nope. No. Absolutely not. She's not major, she's not the major. She's not the major and she will never be the major. I have feelings about that, if you can't tell. But yes. Ay. Okay, so, yeah, no. Don't watch the live action with Scarlett Johansson. That is a travesty to the Ghost in the Shell universe. Does not qualify. Does not count. No. Who would say that? No, I'm not saying Scarlett Johansson is bad. As an actress, she's incredible. The problem is Scarlett Johansson is very purposely was cast in the role of someone who is very purposely supposed to be Japanese. You can, if you are going to do a live action, you have to cast a Japanese actor. Yes, I understand that it is they are supposed to be a cyborg, but that does not make them less culturally Japanese, because that was the whole point, is they were supposed to be created in kind of the when was it made? Like the late 80s, early 90s? Quintessential ideal of like I guess even, I don't even know if a stereotype's the right word, but they were very, like, the Major was very purposely made to be a Japanese character and who was navigating things through the lens of someone whose entire experience and exposure to how life is supposed to be navigated is through the lens of someone who's Japanese. Oh. Well, they're wrong. Sorry. Like I said, I have strong feelings. About that. So that's a no. Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Please watch the animated version. There's a reason it is such an enduring classic, and they keep expanding on the universe. No, no, no. Okay. Sorry. I will stop. Please don't watch it. Okay. Anyways, yes. Okay, Lucy as well is a very direct. It's interesting because it's a very direct. You could tell it's definitely deeply inspired by Elfen Lied. I don't know if y'all have watched Elfen Lied. It was one of those shows that I watched when I was the tender age of 12. 12? Yes. And a lot of the more adult themes in relating to like intimacy flew over my head at the time. And when I tried to show Saint it, I forgot, rather like with Perfect Blue, I forgot how many scenes of like kind of uh, yeah, but anyways, I forgot about some of those scenes and some of those tropes and narratives within the show because the overall messaging of the show had such a different commentary to be made that that part did not maintain itself in my brain. Yes, please. Yes, Ellie. Yes. Yes. But yes, but Lucy is also with Scarlett Johansson is very much, the story is pulled so strongly and you could tell very much inspired. Now, I don't think that that's like a what do you call it? An appropriation. It's simply, I think, inspired by. So that's different. But yes, I would still encourage you to watch Elfen Lied. Just recognize that it is, there are certain components of that show that I don't appreciate now. Yes. Because I don't find them positive or particularly helpful to the narrative in any way, rather that they just come across as very odd fan service. And I don't really understand why any fan would want that to be what they consider a service to them. But yes. Okay. I feel like that wasn't that didn't explain very much, but still. Yeah. I still think the general concept and story that it is explored within that show is worth the watch. But, okay. So today we were actually going to talk about fashion, and this was inspired by a really interesting reel. I will tag it in the description and make a video about this. I will also make sure to have it in the video, but as an if, but I'm sure it will happen. Anyways. I'm a little all over the place, y'all. Sorry. But the reel was done by, I think, a kind of fashion history influencer who was talking about trench coats and the history of trench coats and how there are certain things that are seen as stylistic components that were actually purposely created in order to help deal with certain serious issues that people in World War I, especially soldiers in World War I, were experiencing, largely because no, it's okay, Brant. Being pulled off track is kind of part of it's part of the entire fun of the entire thing, so it's okay. It's a good thing. But okay, so in World War I, there was it wasn't just fashion necessarily, but it was the way to combat the incredible freezing temperatures of the battlefield throughout Europe all the way through to Russia. World War I did go all the way to Russia, right? Yes, it did. Okay. But to combat the freezing temperatures, especially in the winter, Germany as well. Okay, through Germany and European countries and beyond, a lot of soldiers were given or invested in a very specific kind of coat, but that coat Ellie, good question. We're going to have a conversation about that for sure. I'm going to finish the sentence, then we're going to talk about it. They do, Brant, and there's a reason for that. Let's see. Okay, so they were in World War One. One of the things that could lead to a soldier's demise was the elements very easily, and there was a very distinct class structure to who had access to things like heat, warmth, food, and even proper sleep and rest. World War One was the War of the Trenches, where huge trenches were carved into the ground to create essentially these horrific battlefields where soldiers would travel through the trenches and try and gain ground bit by bit by shooting over the trenches or throwing bombs or doing other kinds of warfare tactics to gain ground. But they were also horrifically rife with disease. They were not clean because they were hurriedly dug, and they were just basically just mud, just like trenches of mud on either side. They would gather all kinds of waste and you're surrounded by dirt, and people had to live in those trenches outdoors for extended periods of time, depending on what areas needed to be defended. And so what would happen is then as well, soldiers needed to be able to march very quickly depending on what orders were given to them. So the clothing they wore could cost them their lives or their health, or could lead to really serious, large-scale decimation of different troops' numbers. Yes, exactly, Brant. They did move very, very, yes. So the front was, it just created this horrible experience of constant stalemates, because if you raised your head above the level of the earth and where the trench was dug, you became a target. And a lot of people who, if you walked too high, if you were too tall, if you walked too high, your head became a target. And this, like, snipers on either side were constantly on the lookout for how to cull the numbers of the other side. So yes, before a lot of automatic weapons. So it was a way to ensure that people had space and time to reload, because they had muskets, or they had certain kinds of precursors to our modern day weapons. A lot of technological innovation happens because of war. Actually, that is, spoiler alert, that is the main instigator towards technological innovation on a mass scale in all areas of human existence. M&Ms were actually invented by the Mars Company for soldiers in World War I, because it was a way to allow soldiers to have access to something that, one, was mentally supporting them because it was chocolate, and two, it wouldn't go bad. They could eat a handful of those quickly, and in the middle of a battle, even if they were low on stamina, and it would help revive their morale. There was also some other things that are not as wholesome that were part of that process as well. There was a lot of narcotics abuse in the trenches in order to keep soldiers alert, awake, and capable. Another thing that soldiers had to navigate was mustard gas, which was extraordinarily damaging and horrifically dangerous, and caused like lifelong and even generational health issues for any of the few people who were able to survive that. So everything was at war with you, in addition, as a soldier, in addition to you needing to be able to fight the enemy. So one thing that would happen is a lot of coats were made with, if you had a nice coat, it was made with wool, or it was made with cotton and fibers that were supposed to help keep out the rain, that were coated, where the entire coat was coated in a kind of water wicking material. The issue is that what would happen is the coats over time, especially when they're being worn for months at a time to keep soldiers warm, is they would maybe keep the heat in, but they would also keep all your sweat in. There was no like way for them to diffuse or like allow your body to breathe. So you would be maybe warmer, but you'd also be freezing because your sweat would be freezing inside of you, and it would lead to definitely issues with infections and health issues because you are constantly sweating a huge amount while also being frozen. So it was a very unhealthy dynamic to be having in the middle of war. And as many soldiers were not able to make it home, not just from enemy fire, but also because of the conditions that they were living in and the materials they had accessible to them to keep them alive. So when you have mud coming in on you from all sides, and you also can't stand up straight because if you do, you may become a target, it definitely affects your mental health. And you also have clothing that is keeping you from being able, your body essentially from being able to breathe. You're getting kind of stuck in the worst environment you could be. So what a tailor, a draper actually, in London ended up creating was a very specific kind of fabric where each thread was coated in a water wicking material. Previously, with the coats that were issued to most soldiers, what would happen is you would get a coat where the water wicking material was applied onto the fabric after the coat had been made, so you wouldn't essentially waste any. But it did also mean that it created basically a shell around the coat where, again, water would wick off. It wouldn't soak in and would keep you warm, but it would also trap all of your sweat inside, which led to various health issues, which we just outlined. But what this draper discovered is that if you soaked the threads in that water wicking material first and then created the panels and sewed the coat together, it would actually allow the fabric to be a lot lighter, keep you warm, and it would allow your body to breathe so sweat wouldn't get trapped inside. Another thing that would happen is the coats themselves would soak up mud and water. And so the hems of the coats, which were made to be about like almost to your ankles, like mid-calf length to ankles, in order to keep as much of the body protected from the elements and warm as possible, would end up getting so weighed down with mud, and there was so little fresh water or safe water that people had access to wash their clothes. God, can you imagine how awful that would have been? You can't wash your clothes. You can barely wash yourself. There's barely any water to drink in the first place, and your clothes that you have to wear are keeping you warm, but they're also keeping you locked in a ball of sweat, basically. God. So that just leads to you freezing on the inside. Sickening. And they also soak up any type of refuse or dirt or mud, because you're constantly living in mud, especially because if it rains, the trenches fill with water, which can lead to exacerbating health issues or wounds that any soldiers may have sustained. That is awful. But what soldiers would do is their coats would become so hard to move in that when they needed to get up and run or march really quickly to make it to the next trench or the next safe space, they couldn't because it was too heavy. Add on to that, eventually rations were slowing down. There weren't enough supplies to go around to keep enough people fed and able-bodied, and so you had a huge amount of soldiers who were starving, exhausted, and terrified 24/7. So what they would do is they would cut off the hems of their coats. But eventually, as the mud got higher and higher on their their coats, they would lose a lot of their coats, and it would lead to other health issues because they get too exposed to the cold. So it just created this this repeating cycle of unhealthy experience and essentially harm to the soldiers that they shouldn't have had to deal with. So this one draper decided to try and develop and invent something new. And so what he did is he invented the trench coat, where he sewed the panels in a way that wasn't just aesthetically pleasing. It had every single component of that coat was functional. The flaps, you know how there's the flaps on the front? Those flaps were meant to help protect the shoulder when holding a rifle, so that when the rifle would kick when it was fired, it wouldn't cause as much of a harm to the shoulder. There was also a purposeful way to fold up the flaps on the front and around the neck to help keep your neck warm, so that you could help maintain your body heat, and your body could do a lot more to maintain itself and keep itself healthy and safe and warm, especially in windy environments where the trenches were basically just wind tunnels that trapped wind and water and all of the worst things that can completely decimate an army. Another thing that they did is they also would create these special water wicking panels on the back, which is why on the back of a lot of trench coats you'll see this almost cape-like panel from here all the way around. The front, it was to help support and protect one's shoulders when firing a rifle. The back was to help ensure that water would slide off and away from the body. And it was just like a raincoat. It was to create a structure to keep water, another added structure to keep water from soaking into the clothing or going down onto the back of a person. The belts as well had multiple different hooks and rings attached so that you could hold grenades, maps, water bottles, supply packs, whatever you needed in order to have things on hand, so you wouldn't have to carry as much on your back, and you had easy access in the case of emergency to those items. The belts and the length of it were also all very purposely made so that it would allow soldiers to move freely, and it would make it easier to avoid holding on to mud or other debris or water or other things that would gather in the trenches. Because if there was something as simple as losing one's boots or having a coat that wasn't able to keep you warm enough or took on too much mud or other things, could be the thing that tips you towards the end of existence faster than the threat of the enemy in a war. But this is where class comes into play. Because they didn't just decide to issue these coats and order them en masse and issue them to all of the soldiers, which would have helped support and maintain their numbers. Instead, they were only available for purchase, and officers were the only ones with enough money to be able to purchase them. Officers were almost always nobles as well, or people who were wealthy, to protect them and keep them out of the trenches, so that it could ensure that the people who were in the worst and most dire environments were the poorest of whichever countries were fighting. And that was the truth on all sides, but especially I know the Germans at least did not have access to coats like this because they had been invented by a British draper and sold specifically to the British Army. Most of those are not functional in modern trench coats for suits or formal men. Yes. So a lot of the detailing that was included on those original trench coats were very specifically made for the kinds of needs one would have during World War I, because it was made specifically for that purpose. But as time has gone on, some things about it have maintained their relevance. For example, the one reason trench coats have been so enduring within our fashion landscape is because they are still extraordinarily useful when it comes to ensuring that the body is actually properly able to properly breathe, and your skin can actually breathe, especially with extended use, and they last for a very long time. And the spaces on the belts do still help hold on to items if you do need to access things quickly. Now, we have a different form, and we will talk about this in a minute, but we have a different form of utilizing materials and structure to accomplish the same goals with significantly less need for the stylistic restraints of the World War I, for example. But the next thing that was very frustrating about the whole trench coat experience was because only officers were able to afford purchasing them. What ended up happening is the enemy was able to figure out very quickly that if a person was wearing those trench coats, which were a different color, they were generally like a tan color or that beige color, they were probably an officer. So they would be scouted by snipers of the enemy forces, and that led to an immediate decrease of the amount of officers. So another reason that the nobility kind of fell off after World War I was because they were all getting, a lot of them were getting identified by their access to wealth and their ability to buy themselves better equipment, and then getting targeted for that. And so what did they end up doing? They took men and soldiers who would never have had the chance to ascend to higher levels, no matter how talented or capable they were, because of their class, and made them officers, because they ran out of eligible nobles and aristocrats and wealthy people to have fill in those positions that were safer and a little bit more comfortable. And so they elevated more regular everyday people who had shown themselves to have capability and survival capability, and also the capability of navigating groups of terrified, traumatized, starved, and overwhelmed people, and getting them to be able to work together to accomplish their goals, even when the goals maybe didn't always make sense. And they elevated them to positions of officers, which meant they got better pay, which means they very quickly also bought those coats. But by that point, there were enough of those people who had survived that they made it to the end of the war, and they still had their coats. But because they were seen as less than due to their class, they were not able to maintain the rank that they had attained during the wars. So what had elevated them to the same level as an aristocrat or a noble during the war was removed from them as soon as the war was over. The only thing they got to keep was their coats. Oh, Ellie, is there a piece of clothing from a TV or movie that you've always wanted to own or wear? So many. So many. For some reason, the very first one that comes to mind is Van Helsing. The Vampire Brides outfits, those ones. And then also Van Helsing, the Kate Beckinsale, she has this really cool outfit throughout the entire movie that I really like, that I would wear in a minute. Like, not even this, I would think how I would wear it like right away. It would be one of my default outfits. And then also there's this one ballroom scene where she's dancing with Dracula, and it's this red dress that's really, really, really beautiful. I have wanted that dress since I saw it when I was like 4. Oh my god. It's that is one of my favorite movies. For no reason. It's a terrible movie. It's a terrible movie. I do not advocate you to watch it. But I love that movie. Um, too embarrassing thing I'm gonna admit, because why not? I guess that's where we are. When I was in middle school and I got my first locker, I had a picture of the Dracula from that movie in Dracula form and the vampire brides in my locker. And you know how other people had like pictures and stuff of things that were more, I don't know, popular. Yeah, I went and I actually printed that out. Like, what was wrong with me? Anyways. No, Bran, are you serious? Why? No. Why? It's a terrible movie. It's bad. It's bad, and I know it's bad. I have not rewatched it since I was in middle school because I know it's bad, and I don't want to remember how bad it is. I have my childhood memories of it, and I don't want them destroyed. But I did really like that movie. I feel like it was, it probably explain. I think the style of the Vampire Brides and also, what's her name? Is it Elena? I don't remember. No, it's not Elena. I don't remember what her name is, but Kate Beckinsale's character. The bright red jacket, yes. And her shirt with the corset and the sleeves. Also her hair. Desperately wanted her hair. Are you serious? Wow. It was the only English language? Oh my gosh. You'd be surprised. It's so funny how, like, some of those movies you just are like, what? Why? Why this? Is this really the best you could do? What does this say about you? It's embarrassing. It's bad. Yeah. What about y'all? If you had a piece of clothing that you would love to wear? Oh, also, what video was it? It was a meme. I know Lisa from Blackpink and Lisa wore this to Halloween, but I'd love a modified version of, I don't remember what it's called. It was the dancer in the water. That's not helping at all. But there's this beautiful, the thing is, it's a very specifically Thai design, and I would want a non-appropriative version. I can't remember what it's called. Oh my gosh. I'll have to put it in Discord afterwards. But, yeah. Yeah. Man. Iron Man suit? Do you really, Ellie? Do you feel comfortable letting me know what any of them are? It's okay if not. I totally understand. But oh. Oh. I need to watch Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I still haven't. I haven't, like, I think we made it through most of House of the Dragon. I think that's the most that I've made it through a Game of Thrones associated media. That wasn't a book. So I don't know. Haven't watched. I need to watch more. Oh, it keeps getting, it's so cold. Eh. Please stop dripping on me. Oh. I hope you can't hear that. I'm sorry. Anyways. Yeah, Fran, I see that. I super see that. I would also feel kind of like, oh, I don't know if I should be wearing this. I do also, I will say, I do really admire, like, kimono and just how beautifully designed and everything they are. But I also would never feel comfortable wearing one. even if I was told directly that it was 100% okay, I just wouldn't feel comfortable because I'm like, I just would feel off. And I would appreciate, of course, like if it's not seen as a direct negative, but I just wouldn't feel comfortable wearing it myself. But that might be another thing that I would be like, well, I would never do this, but the idea of wearing this would be cool. Oh, okay. I'll look now. I have my phone under here. Okay. Oh! Oh! Oh, I thought of another one. Now that you've said, okay. Red dresses are a theme. I also, speaking of armor, what is with me and vampires? Okay, I want Dracula's armor from Bram Stoker's Dracula, the 1992 one with Winona Ryder and Gary Oldman. I almost called him that one guy. Gary Oldman. I desperately want that armor. Desperately. Also, almost everything Jennifer J-Lo wears. Why can't I remember her last name? What? Lopez. Oh my god. Wears in The Cell. And also what Winona Ryder wears when she wears her cool red dress. I have a thing for the red dresses. I like them. My favorite movie, Memories it's Magnetic Rose in the Memories anthology that was, that anime anthology that was made in like 1995, I think. One of the main characters has this beautiful red dress. And I'm like, that. If I have time, I won't have time, but if I ever do have time, that is a goal. That is a huge goal on need to make and wear all the time dress. No, it would be very painful to walk around in armor like that. It takes years of training to be able to withstand having that amount of weight on you and then to fight in it. I don't know how anybody did it. I don't know how anybody did that. Oh, comfy clothes unless it's for work. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, like, to me, this is comfy. This feels like wearing sweatpants, but I think some people probably wouldn't like the lace. Peter Capaldi and Doctor Who. Okay, I have to admit, I have never watched Doctor Who. Oh, this is a classic suit. This looks so good. Yeah. Okay, I thought of another one. I would love to wear the outfit that the Elias Ainsworth wears in the Ancient Magus Bride. I just started watching that. Okay. I'll show y'all. That outfit, I want this outfit. I want to look as cool as he does. In this. Okay, hold up. Can y'all see? I don't know if you can see, it's blurry. I'll put it, oh no, that's a, yeah, no, I super want that outfit. Like, profoundly. But, yeah. Yes. We can definitely do that. We can definitely make Memories a watch party. Okay, actually, speaking of which, while we're here, let's have a conversation about when we should do the next watch party. Let me see. I kind of like the idea of doing it on Sundays. Today is Monday. I will be back to stream on Wednesday. Or, you know what we could do? I don't know if anyone has time, but we could do a watch party on Wednesday instead. Or we could do it on Sundays. Because I feel like there is a lot that, yes. Everything Mia Goth wears in Frankenstein is amazing. amazing. God, that blue dress. The beetle dress. Oh. Obsessed. But yeah, I am very happy to do watch parties more consistently in the Discord if y'all are down. If even if it's just like watching an episode of something, because I know that committing to watching like a whole movie can be kind of a lot to do consistently, but I'm happy to like even just work our way through a series. Because one, I want to be able to help reframe FMA for you, Eli. But also, we don't have to watch FMA or Cowboy Bebop, because Cowboy Bebop is one of my favorite shows of all time. But also, I would love to be able to kind of have maybe a more relaxed, chill, just time to kind of talk about a movie and watch it together and engage together. I think that would be really fun. So yeah, I would love to do that. I'd be happy to do that. If anyone here is not already part of the Discord and wants to join in on those watch parties, please let me know. I'll put the Discord link in chat, and then that way you can jump in. Actually, I'll just do that now so that you can make that decision without having to ask. Okay. Okay, I just sent it. There we go. Yes. FMA is Full Metal Alchemist. It's also one of my favorite shows to discuss. I have a kind of avoided talking about it too much because I don't want to spoil anything for you. Oh, hey, Shadow, hello. Hey, guess what? I wasn't radically off of time this time. Only 5 minutes. Oh, yeah, no, I understand that, Brant. Okay, so the thing too that sucks is I recognize that Discord is not going to be the safest server or platform to continue hosting a server. I'm working right now on setting up a stoat and trying to figure out how possible or even, how possible it would be to transfer certain components of messaging and data to the stoat server. Do have the link for that in the Discord, but I fully understand that it's kind of difficult to just hop off of a server you're used to and a platform you're comfortable with, just because of privacy concerns. But Discord has been pretty clear about the fact that they are going to be creating some very frustrating privacy concerns that I just don't feel like in good conscience I can ask people to risk to engage. I just don't feel like that's responsible of me. So I found an alternative. I don't think it's the best alternative possible, but there aren't many. That's one reason Discord has managed to be such a powerhouse for so many people for so long. They have a chokehold on the market because they have streamlined and handled a lot of issues that are very hard to handle unless you have a huge team, and unfortunately a lot of these other spaces haven't been able to. I understand that, Shadow. I know, again, it's totally up to every individual person what you feel comfortable with, but I won't be maintaining my Discord once we get to that point. Now, one reason I've started doing this now is because Discord isn't going to be officially changing their policies and requiring the age verification until later on this year. So I want to give us as much time as possible to be able to transfer over without having the panic rush that we had earlier this year when Discord kind of announced last minute and everybody was really upset and very angry about it. They already did it in the UK and there has been a lot of backlash because of that. I appreciate that, Ellie. Well, I think that's the thing about FMA that I appreciate so much is that it really does allow you, with, especially as you like progress through the different episodes, it allows you to come to terms with all of the things that encompass humanity, and that means the ugly, cruel parts too, not just the admirable components or the loving components. Really good people can make horrible decisions that cost a lot for a lot of people around them and people they don't even know for good intentions, and vice versa. Really bad people can make things that are incredible, that help a lot of people. But I think that's something that this entire show does unpack really beautifully without kind of preaching to you or lecturing, versus it just shows how many ways humans can choose to respond and what happens when systems of power are in place and how it can warp certain people who maybe wouldn't have chosen the route that they did if they hadn't had the kinds of pressures that push them in those directions. At the same time, it doesn't allow people to escape accountability for the choices they've made. And I think that's really important to see, is it is, to me at least, a show that does a very good job of allowing people to exist in all of their glory, all of their cruelty, all of their ugliness, and all of their beauty all at once. Because we're all of those things all of the time, all at once. So, yeah, Ellie, I'm sure it did. Watching that episode alone is especially difficult if you are, and especially if you have memories associated with it, or if you watch it with somebody who is not a safe person to begin with for you, or has the memories that you've had with them are no longer safe. It I think adds to the experience in the most negative of ways. They're trying to make your energy drinks age restricted. I wonder with energy drinks, because they are not healthy for anyone of any age. I could see why they're trying to age restrict certain ones, because especially considering, like, I do think there's maybe a little bit of a difference between things like energy drinks and veiled attempts at surveillance through social platforms. But I understand the frustration when there are certain restrictions placed on something that you're used to not having restrictions on. Energy drinks might be one of the few things that I understand why they would place restrictions on those, especially in relation to age, because of how incredibly harmful they can be for your health. But yeah. Really, Brant? I haven't ever watched The West Wing. I think that's amazing, Ellie. It's not easy. It's really, 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 really not easy to be able to find a healthy medium when there are such polarizing forces pulling you in either direction. Also, just because one person loves something doesn't mean that, and it was valuable for them, doesn't mean it's valuable for everybody in the same exact way at all times. And certain types of media are valuable for you at certain ages that aren't valuable for you at others. Like I was talking earlier about Elf and Lied, I can't watch that now and get the same thing out of it that I did when I watched it when I was quite young. And a lot of that has to do with the mentality I had at the time that was very much informed by being in a maybe not as healthy space. Profoundly not as healthy space. So there were things that I was able to grasp from that media because in that space what it was explaining and exploring was done in a way that my unhealthy mind could handle. But now that I am in a healthier space and I've had the opportunity to work really hard on maintaining and finding balance and recognizing what is healthier versus not healthy, I don't find the same help in it. Instead, I find it quite mentally exhausting because it almost feels like it drags me back to that space. And I think that's the thing about media in all mediums, is that they have different messages for you, and it has different meaning to you at different eras of your life based on the type of messaging you need and are receptive to at those periods. So some things are valuable sometimes. Ooh, okay. I have to watch The West Wing. Okay. What did I do with it? Oh, did I hide it? I have my book that I write. Aha! Okay. Hold up. Let me get a pen so I'm not writing in. Okay. So, here we go. I've learned that if I write it down, I will remember better. Also, okay. Cool. It's there. Now I have my little thing there too. Every once in a while, I laugh at myself when I am reminded of my personal style and how specific it is. And then I'm like, is this an obsession? Perhaps. Maybe a little bit. So yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I know that we have definitely gone on a pretty long tangent, maybe a little bit away from fashion and history. But I do still think that I really like how bringing up different kinds of clothing and outfits that we've been inspired by or would love to wear in film and media of all kinds is the path that we went into, because I feel that the type of clothing that we see represented in especially media that is using mediums that allow for less maybe physically capable or yes kinds of clothing is inspiring, and it's also important to have that level of excitement and I almost say whimsy when it comes to creation, because without that kind of inspiration, we can often lose sight of the importance of what beauty can do if we are creating beautiful like items, and also what utilitarian items can do for us as people, as a species, and for our evolving capabilities. Oh yeah, martial arts are so good to do. They definitely, again, it's a really great opportunity to. I feel like martial arts are can be very therapeutic because of the way that they allow you to explore all the different areas of your body that are capable of strength and also capable of storing trauma. And then allowing you to explore your relationship with your own body and how you relate to others when using your body. I think that's extraordinarily powerful and very, 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 very positive. But again, everything about it is very much based on the mentality that you take when you go into it. So I'm excited for you. I think that's fantastic. And I hope that you'll have a really positive time. And of course, I'm sure that the beginning of it will always be very difficult, because anytime you take on a new skill or you start learning something new, it can feel like you're being bashed over the head with bricks. So, but I'm very excited for you. I'm very hopeful that will be a very positive and healthy experience. So, yay! But yeah, let's see. Where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna go with officer? Okay, so we're talking about the jacket, the trench coat, and then the trench coat. Okay, yes. So the trench coat as well took on various different meanings throughout history, because not after the war, or after the war, the only thing that the momentary or the temporary gentleman, which is what they were determined or termed. That's so cool, Brant! Yay! That's awesome! Ah, I love it. I think I do kind of want to learn Aikido, but I'm also, and that's not a Korean medium, but still. Oh yeah, I think exposure to things like that are the stepping stone that allow you to further your education if you so choose or have the space and time, which is a good thing. It's about the opportunity of exposure, and then from there your choice and capability of time to continue in that path if you want to. What? Ellie! It's for defense only. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell. I'm crossing my arms. But yeah, anyways, blah, blah, blah. What was I even talking about? Oh my gosh. Okay. Officers. Okay, let me see. What time is it? It's almost 8. Okay. So what I'm going to do is maybe finish this thought about officer jackets and clothing. And for some reason, I can't... Wow. My brain is forgetting all of the things that I wanted to talk about. God, it's going to come back to me in like 2.5, 3 hours. All of the points that I had. Okay. Well, what I think I'm going to do is I'll finish this point about the officers' outfits, and then I might sign off for the night, because I am going to be streaming again on Wednesday and then on Sunday. And I'd love to know in Discord, I'll put a little poll up, but I'd love to know in Discord which days of the week people would like to have a kind of watch party night, and also how many times a month, because it doesn't have to be every single week. But yes. Oh, that's a good question. You're really good. You just come out with these really fantastic questions. Is there a color that you feel associated with? Yes. Actually, there's 2. My favorite color is a very specific kind of blue, and I do not own anything that is that color. It is the color of... Other than pink. Well, pink actually is not the color that... it is one of my favorite colors in terms of it's what I gravitate towards. It's my most comforting color. And I think that's because of the fact that one of my my favorite types of flowers are damask roses, and they do often come in this really beautiful blush shade of pink. But I also love that silvery... ethereal color of pink. But I do love pink. It is absolutely, I think, it's the color that I feel the most at home in. But when it comes to colors that I actually think fit, perhaps, sounds weird to say, but like fit my soul, it would probably be this one particular color of blue called, I think it's called cerulean blue. It is a very specific kind of blue that you generally only truly find on stained glass windows of old churches, because it was a color that, a type of blue that had been painted using a particular ingredients that a very specific kind of aging process ended up changing the color into something significantly more dynamic with a greater degree of depth, and it creates this almost 3D feeling to it. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that it is, again, painted glass, so you have these components to it that change how the color appears. But there is just something so deep, and every time I see it maybe it's also the context, I'm not sure, but it is, I get lost in it, and I guess I do feel connected to it. But I can't think of many things that I have ever seen outside of that specific context where that color feels as if it's truly the color. I've seen replications, I've seen things that are relatively close, but nothing that has ever felt quite like it. Yeah. What about y'all? I definitely can't find any clothing that I think fully and accurately reflects it. Maybe I've seen some certain blues. So why don't you own anything in it? Brant, that's a good question. It's really hard for me to find that color outside of those stained glass windows. I've definitely seen replications of it. But I think I haven't quite seen... I guess the closest I could think of is actually maybe Mia Goth's Beetle dress in the Frankenstein movie. That might be the closest, but it's still not exactly it. It's very close, though. But it's, I think, one of those colors that is just extraordinarily hard to capture, because it requires lots of elements that are not natural to clothing. I guess architectural elements and everything that are just not natural outside of the space in which they exist within a stained glass painting that's pretty old. Blue, green, and gray. Brant. I mean, if those colors are what make you happy, that's what matters. And I feel like a person's favorite color is not the same, doesn't have to be the same thing as of what they surround themselves with. Sometimes you can't. Ah, yeah, Ellie, I love that too. I love that. There is another, I guess my next other color that would be closest to a favorite is also a very deep red. I didn't understand. I remember I used to kind of, what was the words? I got a little obsessed with the concept of garnet and vermilion when I was younger, because I had an idea when I would read those words in books of what the color looked like. And then I would see it and it was so much more orange than I anticipated. But yeah, that deep red that you can sometimes find in lipstick. Yes. Ooh, I love that. I love that. I mean, I think plaid is it's a comforting pattern. It's often, I think, also stylistically associated with very specific cuts and certain utilitarian uses, where it's really easy to use a plaid in a lot of different contexts, and it fit between those contexts. So like you can wear a plaid button up and have it open and have a t-shirt underneath, and that be a really like calming, comfortable, and respectful outfit to wear in a lot of different spaces. And then if you need to dress up a little bit more, you just button up the plaid and tuck it in and put a belt on, and there you go. It's really, really helpful for so many different things. It has a lot of like classic elegance to it that I think, you know, James Dean's jacket does also embody really, really well. Marlon Brando and James Dean both create, like, they both, I think, typified a very specific, iconic look in Rebel Without a Cause. Actually, I found out recently that t-shirts, well, okay, so this is one thing that, speaking of which, this is one thing I did want to bring up as well, is that t-shirts used to be underwear. And it wasn't until Marlon Brando in Rebel Without a Cause wore a t-shirt without a button-up over it and just wore it as a shirt that it became popular to wear them as their own t-shirts, as their own forms of clothing. Before it was like being in your underwear if you just had a t-shirt on. That's why when people say, oh, just in my shirt sleeves, that's kind of what they mean. Oh, I haven't watched that film, but I've seen the trailers for it, and I remember thinking that I was very. I'm gonna look up the real quick. I'm gonna look at the images. Oop. I can never figure out how to say this name. Llewellyn? One of my favorite characters in my favorite childhood books was named Llewellyn. I don't know how to say it. Oh, I see. Yeah, there's something kind of like, it's very like late 60s, early 70s kind of classic artist style. There's something about that color that just... Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. That's so cool. Lewin. Oh, A Streetcar Named Desire. Thank you, Ellie. Ugh. Thank you. Why did I think that was Rebel? Oh, because James Dean is in Rebel Without a Cause. Streetcar Named Desire. Those are two separate movies. Okay. Thank you. Lewin. Okay, yes. Lewin. Where is it? Do I have it up here? Where's, I had my favorite book. Where did it go? It's hiding. Okay, anyways. Yes. But that was a historical, what do you call it? That book was a historical, what do you call it? Historical fiction about the one of the last princes of Wales, before it was taken over fully by England. I loved that book and those series. It was my favorite. I was a nerd. I am a nerd. I will always be a nerd. But yes, I was quite obsessed. So I used to reread that book. I actually still have the one that I have. I think I wrote my name on the inside when I was just learning, like barely capable of writing my own name. Yeah. I read it before I think I even really understood or knew how to read well. But That was how I did things. I just would like stare at stuff for a long time, try and recognize things, and then create stories until I could eventually actually understand what I was watching or reading. So, anyways, okay, so I am. Okay, I think I'm going to wind down for tonight, and then I will be back on Wednesday at 6:30 again, and I will maybe think a little bit more about a topic to discuss, and then I will put a poll together in the Discord to vote on watch party days and the frequency of them, so we can decide what to watch and when. I think we should do Memories next because it was the request and it's one of my favorites. So I'm always happy to watch it, and I can't wait to watch Magnetic Rose with everybody. It's gonna be so good. I can't wait to hear what y'all think about it. But okay. I am all done for tonight. Thank you so much for jumping in and having these conversations. I know that we definitely got super, 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 super off track, but that's okay because it was fun, and I can do I can do a video where we just go more in depth to the actual, I guess, the components of this particular topic at a later date. But I'm just glad we got to reconnect and have a conversation. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful night, and I will see you all again on Wednesday.